So what if the reason you cannot conquer your anxiety or, your jealousy or fear is precisely because you are actually trying to conquer it?
Oh, right. It's a bit of a paradox.
It really is. I want you to really think about that for a second. Think about a moment where you were just completely gripped by an intense emotion.
Oh, we've all been there.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it was like a paralyzing wave of panic before a big event, or an unbreakable, almost suffocating attachment to a person or even a belief. You know the exact feeling.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the emotion has totally hijacked the car and you were just locked in the trunk. It is utterly exhausting. And usually, when we find ourselves in that trunk, our instinct is to kick and scream and fight our way out.
Right, you try to wrestle the steering wheel back.
Yes. We try to control the feeling, suppress it, push it down, or outthink it somehow.
Which is actually the exact mechanism that keeps us locked in the trunk in the first place. I mean, trying to control the emotion doesn't neutralize it at all. It actually fuels it.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore a radically counterintuitive approach to handling those overwhelming feelings.
It really is quite radical.
Yeah, because the goal isn't to fight your emotions. The goal is to dissolve them. And we are going to explore how to do that simply by, well, just looking at them.
The underlying mechanics of this idea are profoundly deep, honestly. Our source material today comes from a set of transcripts from a talk by the philosopher J. Krishnamurti.
Which is a fascinating read, by the way.
Oh, definitely. And in it, he was examining one specific, really piercing question. He asks, how does observation reduce the strength and power of emotions and attachments?
Right.
And to answer it, Krishnamurti starts with a premise that completely undercuts, the entire modern self-improvement mindset. He argues that trying to control, suppress, or even sublimate our emotions does absolutely nothing to reduce our inner conflict.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if controlling our emotions is just a total dead end, we need to figure out what we are actually doing wrong before we can look at the solution.
Makes sense.
His method starts with becoming genuinely aware of our inner state. But, that sounds deceptively simple. Most of us walking around would say, well, I'm perfectly aware of my feelings. I know when I'm stressed.
Yeah. We assume we are aware, but what we are actually doing is taking our emotional struggles completely for granted.
How do you mean?
Well, Krishnamurti points out a very subtle trap in the source text. We experience these incredibly turbulent emotions and we just rationalize them away.
Why?
We say things to ourselves like, well, it doesn't matter, it's just a part of life, I don't mind struggling, everyone gets jealous, everyone gets overwhelmed. We essentially treat this internal chaos as a baseline condition of the human experience.
Wow. Yeah, it's like living in a house where the fire alarm is constantly going off. And then instead of actually fixing it, we just buy earplugs and tell ourselves that houses are just naturally loud.
That is a perfect way to put it.
We normalize the chaos.
We completely normalize it. And because we normalize it, we never actually examine it deeply. We never look at how heavily these attachments and emotions completely overshadow our clear thinking.
They just get in the way.
Exactly. They act as concrete barriers to unconfused action. And this leads to Krishnamurti's crucial distinction. It's a distinction between a concept and a reality.
Okay, lay it on me.
He asks a really fascinating question. When you say to yourself, I am attached or I am jealous, is that just an idea you have about yourself or is it a fact?
Hold on, you're losing me a bit there.
Fair enough. It's a tricky concept.
Yeah, because if I feel a massive wave of anger, and I say, well, I am angry, isn't that just a fact? How could my own anger just be an idea? Like, I'm feeling it. It's happening.
I get that. It feels like you are observing a fact. But Krishnamurti uses a brilliant analogy in the talk to separate the two. Look at the microphone sitting on the desk between us right now.
Okay, looking at it.
You can have an idea of a microphone in your head. You can think about its purpose, how it amplifies sound, what it represents to a broadcaster, all that stuff.
Right.
But that concept is completely different from the physical, heavy metal object sitting on the table. The microphone itself is a physical fact. You can reach out and touch it. It exists completely independently of your opinions or thoughts about it.
Okay, so the physical object is the fact, and my thoughts about it are the idea.
Exactly.
So how does that translate to what happens in my head when I'm, say, jealous?
Well, an emotion, let's use jealousy, is a fact. It is a real, visceral, physiological event happening in your body and your mind in real time.
Yeah, your chest tightens, your heart rate goes up.
Right. There is a very real physical sensation. But usually We never just look at that fact.
Mm.
We look at it through what Krishnamurti calls a screen of
A
ideas.
screen of ideas, what does that actually look like in practice?
It means the second you feel the jealousy, your mind just starts spinning a narrative. You look at your conclusions about the
Oh,
jealousy.
I see.
You start justifying it like, I have a right to be jealous because of what they did. Or you judge it. You say, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I'm a terrible person for being jealous. Or you try to fix it.
Right, you get caught up in the story.
Exactly. All of that chatter, all of those judgments and conclusions, that is the screen of ideas. You are no longer interacting with the raw fact of the emotion. You are interacting with your mental concepts about the emotion.
That is wild. It's kind of like trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like when you're in the pool, pushing that ball down beneath the surface, you aren't really interacting with the reality of the ball just resting calmly on the water.
Right, you're interacting with the resistance.
Exactly. You are interacting with your idea of the ball's buoyancy.
Mm.
You're anticipating it popping up. You're calculating how hard you have to push to keep it hidden. You're creating a whole strategy to deal with it.
Yes.
And it exhausts you.
Yeah.
You never just let the ball float there and look at it. You're too busy fighting your concept of what the ball might do.
Yeah. That analogy perfectly captures the sheer exhaustion of it. The moment you are observing the fact of your emotion through an idea or through a conclusion, you aren't observing the fact at all. You are verbalizing it.
You're just caught in the screen.
You are caught in the screen of ideas, and as long as you are trapped in that screen, you are entirely disconnected from the reality of the emotion itself. And this disconnect is actually what creates the next massive hurdle.
Which is?
It has to do with the distance we imagine exists between us and our feelings.
Right. Because we don't just put a screen of ideas over our emotions.
Yeah.
We also pretend those emotions are sitting all the way across the room from us, completely separate from who we are.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is that this is where Krishnamurti really shifts the focus.
Mm-hmm.
He moves from how we look at emotions to who is actually doing the looking.
Okay, the observer.
Yes. We tend to look at an attachment or a fear exactly like we look at that microphone on the table. We say, well, there is me, the observer, sitting over here, and over there, separate from me, is my jealousy. We create this duality. But Krishnamurti challenges this entirely. He says these attachments, these emotions, they are part of our very structure.
Wait, if the attachment is part of my structure, then there is no separation.
To quote the source text directly, he presents this really profound realization. He says, attachment is the me. If I have no attachment, there's no me.
Wow.
He is saying there is absolutely no duality. There is no division between the person observing the emotion and the emotion itself. The feeling, the possessiveness, the attachment, that is you.
Oh, wow. I mean, I need a second to process that.
Mm-hmm.
If the attachment is me, then who is fighting who?
Exactly the point.
If I try to fight my jealousy, it's like my right hand trying to wrestle my left hand. It's all just me fighting me.
Precisely. The observer is the observed.
Well, no wonder we are exhausted all the time.
Huh.
We are locked in this endless internal wrestling match where both opponents are the exact same person.
It's madness when you think about it.
We create this completely imaginary division.
Mm-hmm.
We invent an I who is, good and rational and wants to be calm, and we invent an attachment which is bad and needs to be defeated. But it's an illusion. It is all the exact same psychological structure.
And the illusion of division is incredibly seductive because division implies control. If you believe your jealousy is separate from you, you believe you can actually do something about it. You think, I can dominate it, I can suppress it, I can build a wall against it, which is how most of humanity operates.
Yeah, that's pretty much the standard operating procedure.
But the moment you realize that the attachment is you, that the observer is the observed, that whole strategy of control collapses entirely.
Because you can't defeat yourself.
Exactly.
But, that leads to a pretty terrifying question. If the attachment is me, and there is no division, then I can't control it. I can't fight it. If I can't push the beach ball underwater and I can't pock the beach ball, what on earth am I supposed to do?
Because you cannot act upon it, since acting upon it is just you acting upon you, your only option is observation. Pure observation.
Pure observation.
But we have to be incredibly precise here about what kind of observation we mean. Because it isn't, I am observing. The moment you say, I am observing, you have brought the concept of the me back in.
Oh, I see. You have recreated the division.
Yes.
You step back across the room to stare at the microphone again. You're separating yourself.
Exactly. Instead of saying, I am observing, the state must simply be, there is observation.
Okay, I really want to make sure I am grasping the actual mechanics of this, for anyone listening who wants to understand how this physically works in the mind, what does there's observation actually look like?
Well, in the source material, Krishnamurti describes pure observation as having no choice, no direction, and absolutely no interference of thought.
None.
None. Think about a campfire. Your emotion, let's say a sudden spike of anxiety, is the fire. It flares up. Naturally, an emotion has a lifespan, right? It burns for a while and then starts to fade.
Yeah.
But what do? We start judging the anxiety. We panic about the anxiety. We try to figure out how to put it out. Every single one of those thoughts, every judgment, every justification is literally a new log that we are throwing onto the fire.
We are feeding the exact thing we are trying to stop.
Yes. Pure observation is looking at the fire without throwing any new logs on it. You aren't trying to blow it out. You aren't judging the flames for being too hot. You are just watching it completely.
Just watching.
Right? Without the new logs, without the screen of ideas and judgments, the fire eventually just runs out of fuel. If you begin to choose, if you look at your attachment and say, I mustn't be attached, I need to get rid of this, you have already moved away from observation.
You've introduced choice.
Exactly. Which
Yeah.
means you just threw another log on the fire.
Wait, if fighting my emotions is what feeds them, does that mean my anxiety is actually surviving off the effort I'm using to suppress it?
Now you are hitting on the core mechanism of why this works, which comes down to the energy economy of the mind.
Energy economy.
Yes. We usually assume that our wild emotions and strong attachments are the result of us having way too much energy. But Krishnamurti points out that attachment actually comes from a lack of energy.
That seems completely backwards. How does a massive, overwhelming feeling of possessiveness come from a lack of energy?
Because of how we dissipate our internal resources, think about the right hand wrestling the left hand. That takes a massive amount of exertion.
Oh, absolutely.
We waste almost all of our internal energy resisting, suppressing, and fighting ourselves. We leak energy constantly into this imaginary conflict.
We burn all our calories trying to hold the beach ball underwater.
Exactly. But when you stop fighting, when you observe completely, like watching the fire without throwing logs on it, without a single judgment or thought interfering, something incredible happens.
What happens?
All of that energy you were wasting suddenly centers and gathers in that observation. You stop leaking. And in that state of fully gathered, centered energy, the attachment naturally dissolves.
Yeah.
Because the attachment was the conflict.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that is staggering. It completely flips modern self-help on its head.
It really does.
Like if you scroll online right now, everything is about taking action. It's a 10-step battle plan to defeat your anxiety. It's a rigid morning routine to conquer your stress. It's always framed as a war that you have to win through relentless effort.
Right. More pushing, more fighting.
But Krishnamurti is saying the exact opposite. The solution isn't a complex, exhausting battle plan. The solution is radical, motionless awareness. By doing nothing, by just gathering your energy into pure observation, the thing you are fighting vanishes because it needed your resistance to survive.
It needed you to keep pushing. When you stop pushing, the dynamic changes entirely. The total dissipation of attachment is the natural result of gathered energy.
Wow.
Krishnamurti actually challenges the audience in his talk. He says, test it, do it, and you will find out. But he warns that you have to examine it very, very closely. You can't just jump to conclusions. You have to let your mind be intensely active in its observation, completely free of the screen of ideas.
And we really need to pause and emphasize why this matters. Because, it is very easy to listen to this and treat it like a neat little philosophical thought experiment. Like, oh, cool, a new mindfulness trick. But Krishnamurti frames this as an absolute matter of psychological survival, doesn't he?
He absolutely does. If we connect this to the bigger picture of how we live our lives, Krishnamurti delivers a very stark warning. He states that only the unintelligent or the unaware remain attached.
And he doesn't mean unintelligent like a low IQ, right?
No, not at all. He isn't using the word unintelligent to insult someone. He means a profound lack of awareness of reality. People remain attached because they simply do not see the full destructive implications of their attachment.
They don't see what the attachment is actually doing to them under the surface.
Because we dress attachment up as love or care or ambition, but according to the source, attachment breeds fear. Think about it. If you are deeply attached to a person or to your reputation or to an image of yourself, you live in constant low-grade terror of losing it.
That is so true.
That attachment breeds anxiety, it breeds hate when someone threatens it, and it breeds jealousy. It traps you in a violent cycle of possessing things, and inevitably being possessed by the things you were trying to hold on to is a tremendous psychological danger.
And he uses a really powerful metaphor to illustrate that danger, the metaphor of the cliff.
Yes. He says that attachment is a tremendous danger, exactly like standing at the edge of a sheer deadly cliff. Now, think about how you operate around a physical cliff.
Okay,
If you are walking in the mountains and you suddenly see a massive drop-off, what do? You don't have to form a committee to debate it. You don't have to read a self-help book on how to avoid falling.
right.
You don't have to actively suppress a burning urge to step off into the abyss. The moment you are truly aware of the physical danger, you naturally, effortlessly step back.
It's an automatic reflex.
It is automatic. Why? Because you clearly see the fact of the danger, not the idea of the danger, but the indisputable physical fact of it.
Right.
Krishnamurti argues that it is only the unaware mind, the blind mind, that walks over the cliff. If you fall, it's because you didn't look, or you were completely distracted by your screen of ideas. Pure observation acts the exact same way with emotional danger.
Oh, so.
When you truly, purely observe the reality of your jealousy, when you see the cliff for what it actually is without judging it or analyzing it, you naturally move away without having to force yourself.
That brings the whole thing together so perfectly. True safety doesn't come from building a massive fence at the edge of the cliff,
Exactly.
because building the fence is suppression. Building the fence is telling yourself, I shouldn't go near the edge. I'm bad if I look at the edge. It takes a massive amount of energy to build and maintain that fence, and honestly, you're still terrified of the drop.
You're still living in fear.
Right. True safety just comes from keeping your eyes open. You just see the drop, and your intelligence naturally steps you back. Simple, effortless observation.
It is the difference between endlessly managing a symptom and actually curing the disease. Managing the symptom is the internal wrestling match. Observation is the cure, because it completely removes the ignorance that allows the danger to exist in the first place.
So what does this all mean? How do we take this 20th century philosophy and actually use it in our day-to-day lives? And I want to be clear, this isn't some quick life hack that you're going to perfectly execute on a Tuesday morning. This is a fundamental rewiring of how you interact with yourself.
It really is a lifelong practice.
But I want to challenge you, the listener, to try it. The very next time you feel a surge of that overpowering emotion we talked about at the beginning, maybe it's a flash of intense jealousy or a wave of anxiety or this tight possessive feeling over a relationship. The next time you feel locked in that trunk drop, the battle,
Just let it go.
do not suppress the feeling. Don't judge yourself for having it. Don't try to fix it. And don't try to tell a story about why you are allowed to feel it. Just observe it. Look at the physical fact of the emotion, just like you'd look at a heavy microphone sitting on a desk.
Right.
Recognize that the impulse to fight it, your right hand wrestling your left hand, is just dissipating the very energy you need to dissolve it. Stop throwing logs on the fire. Just gather your energy in pure, choiceless awareness and watch what happens to the cliff.
And as you begin to experiment with that, it leaves us with one final, very profound question. A question that builds on everything we've explored today.
I love these.
If Krishnamurti is right, that our attachments, our fears, and our jealousies literally construct them, and if pure observation completely dissolves those attachments by starving them of energy, then what happens to your identity?
Wow.
When the attachments are gone, when the screen of ideas falls away and the conflict ends, who is left doing the observing?
That is a staggering thought to end on. If the attachment is me and the attachment dissolves, what remains? That is exactly the kind of question that makes digging into these sources so rewarding. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Hopefully the next time you feel like you're locked in that emotional trunk, you'll remember you don't have to exhaust yourself kicking your way out. You just have to open your eyes. We'll catch you on the next one.